I wanted to say a few words just before the video. I'm slightly hungover this morning, not too bad, but when I get back home after shooting footage for the video, I'll watch the footage on the computer here with a few beers. It's a necessary part of the process, watching the footage, that is. The beer bit isn't. It still allows me to see what works, what doesn't work, and stuff I'm not sure about that I can chew over. And the whole video making process for me has become more labour intensive as time's gone by. Used to be the case I would just sort of point and shoot the camera and babble into the camera itself, and that would be pretty much it. But now there's just a lot more work involved in doing the thing. Just the sound itself, for example. You know, I'm not just recording into this little Sony voice recorder thing. I'm taking these sound files and processing them with compression and all manner of things to just make the sound better, and so it doesn't fluctuate so much. I mean, there are three basic stages of me making these videos. There's the planning, the actual filming, and the editing. That's essentially it. And a lot of the planning sort of happens up here before I put anything down on paper. I think about these things for a long time. I mean, this is the plan for filming yesterday. See if you can see that. And that tells me exactly what's going on, so that I kind of hit the ground running, which was necessary yesterday because I didn't have a great deal of time between getting off the train and getting back on another train. And this isn't set in stone. This can be fluid because things can happen during the filming that means you miss some of this out, or you might see things that you think, didn't realise that was there. I'll take some footage of that. For example, I had planned to do an opening spiel, or a secondary opening spiel after the railway station on the bridge, Thomas Telford's bridge on the approach to Dunkeld, but that just, in practice that wasn't possible because it was a very narrow pavement and I was just getting in everybody's way, and there was a lot of traffic. Dunkeld suffers from a serious amount of traffic. That's just out of order. But the main thing I just wanted to say was that it's about the camera there. As I perhaps said in another video, it's a new camera. I'm perhaps not quite used to it yet. And in the final bit of footage, which took place in The Hermitage, a lovely bit of woodland by roaring rivers, for whatever reason, the autofocus and the face recognition didn't do its job. And in that final bit where I'm saying, "I'm Eddie Burns, see you again," or whatever, was way out of focus. But I'm going to use it anyway, as a lesson to us all, perhaps. Not to trust face recognition and autofocus. I'd zoomed in quite a lot for that shot, and so that it was just a head and shoulders with a background of leaves on trees. I don't know whether it was the zooming or whether the camera was confused by all the leaves and all the kind of stuff that was going on behind me, but it just didn't focus, didn't recognise me. And just one other thing which you will also notice that I'm just suddenly becoming aware of, this new camera, it has a pull-out screen that I can swivel, and it means when I'm filming I can actually see myself, and that is good from a composing point of view. I can see it that I'm in shot and I'm not out of shot or whatever. But I have noticed that instead of looking at the camera lens, I'm looking at that screen. And while there's only a very short distance between them, when you're watching the video, you can notice that. You can see when I'm not looking at the camera. Just now I'm looking at the camera lens, and just now I'm looking at the pull-out screen. You can see the difference there. And looking at the lens is actually an important part of engaging with an audience. And I wanted to apologise for that. I'm now aware of that, and hopefully I'll be able to correct that sort of thing. So here's the video. Watch out for the cat. Hello there. Well, I just got off a train there, which is strangely reassuring. This is a railway station. It's unlikely to have been a boat. This is Dunkeld and Birnam railway station, and today I'm going to have a look at Dunkeld and also a national Trust for Scotland property titled The Hermitage, which is a big bit of wood that was once an 18th century pleasure ground. I was originally going to get the bus from Glasgow, but on far too many occasions these days the public transport is just not joined up, whatever that means. If I had got the bus, I would have got a bus from Glasgow to Perth and then another bus from Perth to Dunkeld. Now the problem is that the bus from Glasgow arrives in at Perth bus station, and the bus leaving Perth for Dunkeld leaves elsewhere. I think it leaves from Mill Street in Perth. It doesn't leave from the bus station, and I think that's what I mean by not joined up. Why that bus and other buses don't leave from Perth bus station, I just do not know. It may well be the case, and I think Perth bus station, if my memory serves me well, is a little bit run down, looks a bit tatty around the edges, and it may well be the case that they're just letting it run down to the point where it no longer becomes viable as a bus station, and then they'll just demolish it and build a few houses on the spot. And at that point they'll probably have buses leaving from a number of stops on a street in Perth, as is the case in Mill Street, probably Mill Street in fact. And I've seen a lot of places in Scotland where they've actually done away with their bus station. Alloa, for example, used to have a bus station. Falkirk used to have a bus station. Both of these places, the bus station has just been no longer there or no longer used. And instead they've placed a number of bus stops on a street in the town. And in my opinion, that's just an utter shambles. It really is. Towns need bus stations. It's as simple as that. It's got to be part and parcel of the process of having a good public transport system.
I mean, Perth's unusual in that it has a bus station, if that's the term, just outside of Perth. I think it's called the Broxton Roundabout. I think that's what it's called. In Glasgow as well, used to have two bus stations. Used to have Buchanan Street bus station and Anderson bus station. They did away with Anderson bus station, and again, what you have is just one street in Glasgow, this absolute chock-a-block with bus stops and people milling about, wondering where they get their bus. It's a shambles, and as I say, places need bus stations. It's always good to start these things off with a right good moan. So let's go and explore Dunkeld. The approach to Dunkeld, just over the Thomas Telford Bridge, has to be one of the best approaches to any towns in Scotland. You just see that and you want to explore it. It's beautiful. So let's explore it. Well, this is Dunkeld's Ell Shop. It was once the case, many years ago, in the old days, that there was a shortage of alphabetical letters. If you think about some places, like Bowness, for example, it used to be called Borough, Stowness, big long word. But as I say, it was a national letter shortage. They thought, we better shorten this to Bowness. And here in Dunkeld, an enterprising gentleman thought to make a fast buck by gathering up all the available L's. He opened a shop and he was selling L's. I think he sold some vowels as well. Yeah, fascinating. On the 21st of August 1689, a battle took place in Dunkeld between Jacobites and government forces. It was part of the first Jacobite Rising. The Jacobites had just emerged victorious from the Battle of Killiecrankie, a battle in which Bonnie Dundee died, and they headed south towards Dunkeld in order to secure the town and engage with government forces who were in the town. It wasn't a typical battle of the period. You know, you didn't have a field with the men lined up facing each other. This was a battle that was actually fought in the town. So it just wasn't typical for that time. And I'm not entirely sure how it came about, but a much larger force of Jacobites were defeated, essentially. I'm not sure, to be honest, if defeated is the word. The numbers just were overwhelming compared with government forces, and they should have taken the town and won the battle. But perhaps because it wasn't a typical battle and they couldn't carry out their Highland charge and what have you, that they just thought, oh goodness, just had enough of this, leave. And in leaving Dunkeld, they lost the battle, which was pretty amazing, to be honest. Government forces was a newly set up regiment called the Cameronians. They were so new, they'd only been on the go for a few months, that they hadn't been properly equipped. Some of them were using old-fashioned sort of halberd-type spears and what have you. They did have muskets and things. But because it was just a kind of strange battle in and around the town, muskets and the bullets for them was an issue. It became an issue. You know, the Jacobites perhaps weren't doing as much hand-to-hand fighting as they were used to, and they were relying more on the use of musket fire. But they probably didn't have enough bullets with them. They ran out. At some stage, lead from some buildings, the roof of some buildings melted down. But, you know, in the heat of battle, you don't really have enough time for all that sort of thing. And for whatever reason, as I say, the Jacobites eventually left Dunkeld and as such lost the battle. And as I perhaps showed you just a moment or two ago, the man in charge of the Cameronians was killed during that battle. And, you know, this was a battle that was essentially about religion, Catholics and Protestants. King James II had a daughter, Mary, who was married to King William of Orange. James II then had a son, and he would then have taken the throne. But some Protestant nobility didn't particularly like the idea of a Catholic monarchy and how that might affect life for Protestants. And they asked William of Orange to come over to the UK and take the throne from James II, which he did, and William and Mary became King and Queen of the UK. King James II at that stage effectively did a runner, but of course he returned with a huge army and battles ensued all over the place. This was a part of that whole thing. There was battles in Ireland and further Jacobite uprisings in the hope to reinstate King James II on the throne. But it never happened, and it all ended at Culloden in 1746. But the issue of Catholics and Protestants is an ongoing one that continues to this very day, and it's caused any number of problems and troubles. And perhaps as a society, And by a society, I mean everyone. And that includes the Orange Lodge and the Orange Order, who each year celebrate this glorious revolution and the Battle of the Boyne and what have you, and victories in places like Dunkeld. And I can understand that celebration. It's a part of our history and something that perhaps should be celebrated. But I think the Orange Lodge and the Orange Order have been going a bit over the top. This was something that happened hundreds of years ago. And although they would deny it these days, there is a certain amount of anti-Catholic sentiment within that organisation. And as I say, as a society, perhaps we all, including the Orange Lodge and the Orange Order, and the British royal family, maybe we should just all grow up. Before visiting incidentally, with this camera, I've got a pull-out viewfinder so that I can see myself on the screen, and I'm finding that I'm looking at that rather than looking at the lens in the camera. So while it feels as if I'm looking at the camera, I'm a few inches off, and when you're looking at this as a video, you'll see that I'm not actually looking straight at you. So apologies for that. I'll try and get used to this new scenario. But yeah, I wanted to visit the grave of Neil Gow, a great 18th century violinist who performed all over Scotland. Very famous man in his day and remains famous even today. Apparently, during his performances, he would give out a sudden loud sort of yell or a shout, which would sort of startle dancers dancing to the music, but also sort of excite them. And in some ways you can sort of hear that sort of thing today when you perhaps watch Highland dancers and such like, because every now and then they'll go "Eek," or something like that, just a sudden loud noise that if you didn't know what it was, you'd be thinking, what the heck's going on? So perhaps, and I don't know, but maybe Neil was the first person to do that sort of thing. And when he initially did it, folk were thinking, what's going on? And it must have sort of caught on, maybe. But yeah, we'll head for the Hermitage now. I seem to be a little bit pushed for time here. It starts to get kind of dark after 4. I think I should be alright, but I think I'm not going to get the train back that I thought I was going to get back, which may mean me spending a few hours in a hostelry. Well, double quick time from Dunkeld, and that took me a lot quicker than I thought, so I think I will have plenty of time to get the train back that I had intended. And I'm now in the Hermitage, and this is what the Hermitage is famous for: big trees. Not necessarily these big trees, but in fact, as part of the park, which, as I said earlier, was built as a 18th century pleasure grounds for the Dukes of Atholl. But just on the other side of the A9 by the River Tay, there is what is called Neil Gow's tree. All good musicians need their own tree, you know. I quite like the look of this one. This is my tree. I'm going to end the video here. I've yet to explore most of Hermitage Park, so I'm going to end with lots of footage of what's to follow. I understand that Ossian's Hall is just ahead, which I think for us all it should be a real treat, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm Eddie Burns. Take care, and I'll see you again.